I had kindly driven my neighbor's son to and from school for a whole year. After his final grades came out, she showed up with her entire family, blocking my garage. She slapped a claim for $15,000 into my hand, pointed a finger at my nose, and yelled, "My son was a genius. But your crappy car jolted his brains so bad it's ruined. You're not leaving this garage until you pay up." I stared at the familiar official seal on the claim form and let out a cold laugh. She had no idea that the owner of that assessment center was my uncle. Not only that, I also knew the real reason her son's grades plummeted. She'd taken $5,000 meant for his tutoring and spent it all on tipping a sexy male streamer. Trying to extort me? I'm about to make you lose everything you have and leave you with nothing. The underground garage was dimly lit, reeking of a musty smell that never saw sunlight. I'd just parked my car in my designated spot and hadn't even unbuckled my seatbelt when three figures suddenly darted out from behind a supporting pillar nearby. They surrounded my car, blocking the front and cutting off all my exits. Leading the charge was my dear neighbor, Brenda Hayes. She was wearing a full face of makeup today, her lipstick a dark, bold shade, her feet clad in 4-inch stilettos, and in her hand, she clutched a stack of stark white papers. Trailing behind her were her husband, David Hayes, who usually greeted everyone with a smile but now had a grim expression, and her mother-in-law, Martha Hayes, notorious in the neighborhood for being an absolute pain. "Sophia Miller, get out of that car right now." Brenda's shrill voice exploded in the empty garage, echoing piercingly and making my eardrums ache. I frowned, not getting out immediately. Instead, I lowered my window halfway and stared at her coldly. "Brenda, what the hell is wrong with you? Yelling like this so late at night?" "What's wrong with me?" Brenda let out an exaggerated, cold laugh, storming closer to my car window. She raised her hand and slapped the stack of papers against my windshield with a loud smack. "Open your eyes and look at what you've done. My perfectly fine son, you utterly ruined him." Martha, seeing this, immediately scurried closer. Her bony fingers, dry like tree branches, almost poked through the window gap and into my nose. "You evil, cold-hearted woman. We trusted you so much, letting you drive our Leo every day. What were your intentions? Do you hate that you can't have kids, so you're jealous of our Leo's intelligence and deliberately messed with him on the road?" I took a deep breath, suppressing the anger surging in my chest, pushed open the car door, and stepped out. On the windshield, the white A4 paper was almost blinding. The bold, enlarged title at the top screamed, as if desperate for attention. Asterisk, compensation details for brain nerve damage and intellectual developmental delay caused by prolonged vehicle jolting. Asterisk. I looked at that line of text and laughed, enraged. Reaching out, I yanked the paper off and scanned it under the garage's dim light. The categories listed were even more detailed than a hospital bill. One-time compensation for intellectual damage, $7,000. Parental emotional distress, $3,000. Follow-up brain rehabilitation and nutrition costs, $2,000. Lost future prospects from failing to get into an elite prep school, $3,000. The last line was heavily circled in red. Total, $15,000. I looked up at Brenda's face, slightly twisted from extreme agitation. "15,000? Brenda, are you trying to extort me? Or are you just dreaming in broad daylight?" Brenda crossed her arms, chin held high, looking smug, as if she had me cornered. "Extortion? Sophia, don't you dare make baseless accusations. It's all in black and white. This is an official assessment from the most authoritative professional institution in the state. Our Leo used to get perfect scores on every test. He was an absolute prodigy. But ever since he started riding in your clunky car, getting jolted around every day, now his final exam results are out, and he got a D in math. A D. Can you believe it? The doctor even said it's because of long-term violent jolting, causing severe attention deficit and irreversible brain nerve damage. If you don't pay up, you're not taking another step out of this garage today." In the garage, quite a few neighbors who had just gotten home from work had stopped. Some rolled down their car windows, peeking out to watch the drama. Others simply turned off their engines and stood a short distance away, pointing and whispering. Brenda, seeing the crowd grow, seemed to gain instant confidence. Her voice soared even higher, turning into a full-blown, theatrical performance. "Everyone, judge for yourselves." I was kind enough to let her take my child along the way, and she, in turn, drove like a maniac, scrambling my son's brain. Now his future is ruined, and she won't even say sorry, trying to avoid paying. A few hushed whispers immediately rose from the crowd. "Wow, can a car ride really mess up someone's brain? Never heard of that." Who knows, kids these days are so delicate. But driving someone else's kid, it really does seem like no good deed goes unpunished. You just can't be a good Samaritan anymore. $15,000. Sophia's really unlucky to end up with a neighbor like this. David chimed in at the right moment, his face stern, feigning reasonableness and concern for the bigger picture. Sophia, we're all neighbors in the building. We see each other every day. We don't want to make things too ugly, and we definitely don't want to go to court. But this situation, it's clearly all your fault. Just pay the $15,000 without a fuss, and we'll pretend nothing happened. We can still say hello when we see each other. Friends? Say hello? I looked at this utterly hypocritical trio, a wave of nausea churning in my stomach. This entire year, how much had I helped their family? Rain or shine, if Brenda said, "I'm getting my hair done, I'll be late, can you wait a bit longer?" I'd have to wait for Leo in the cold outside the school for half an hour. Leo would eat messy cookies and drink sticky sodas in my car, leaving crumbs and spills everywhere, and I never said a harsh word. I just quietly paid to get the car detailed myself. Now, because her son isn't studying, his grades dropped, and they blame it on my car being too bumpy, damaging his brain? I lowered my gaze, looking at the so-called compensation details again. My eyes slowly moved down, finally landing on the blue stamp in the bottom right corner. Blue Sky Children's Development Assessment Center. I paused. Then, an irrepressible cold smirk curved my lips. Blue Sky Assessment Center? What a coincidence. The big boss behind this institution was none other than my uncle, Richard Miller. I had just been to his office last month, enjoying some excellent coffee. At the time, he was complaining to me that too many people were counterfeiting their institution's official seal to scam people, severely damaging their reputation. Their legal department was about to team up with the police for a large-scale arrest. Brenda, seeing me smile at the stamp, thought I was stunned into silence. She advanced triumphantly. What? What are you laughing at? Nothing to say, huh? Sophia, I advise you to pay up quickly. Otherwise, I'll post this in the resident Snapchat group and the school parents group. I'll let everyone know what a cold-blooded, heartless person you are. I slowly folded the paper and calmly slipped it into my designer bag. All right. Brenda froze, seemingly unprepared for my reaction. What did you say? I looked at her, every word clear and forceful. I said, all right, post it wherever you want, go viral if you wish. But Brenda, I'm making myself clear right here and right now. I won't give you a single cent, not a single dime of that $15,000. Not only will I not pay, but I'll make you pay a price you can't afford for this worthless piece of paper. With that, I turned, got back into my car, and slammed the door shut with a bang. I started the engine, shifted into gear, and floored the accelerator. The 300 horsepower engine instantly let out a beastly roar, and the tires screeched against the epoxy floor of the underground garage. David and Martha shrieked, their faces pale, scrambling to hide behind a nearby pillar. Brenda, retreating too quickly in her high heels, twisted her ankle and fell hard on the ground, her perfectly made-up face instantly contorted in pain. I rolled down my window, coldly tossing out a warning. If you're not afraid to die, keep blocking my car with your body. Then, I swerved the steering wheel, my car brushing past their clothes as I drove away. In my rearview mirror, Brenda frantically picked herself up from the ground, pointing and cursing at my taillights like a complete banshee. I activated my car's Bluetooth and called Mr. Jenkins, the property manager. Mr. Jenkins, underground garage, Zone B, spot 102. Someone was causing trouble and blocking my vehicle. Please immediately retrieve the last 10 minutes of surveillance footage and preserve it exactly as is. If a single second is missing, I'll hold you accountable. Hanging up, I took a deep breath of the cool air in the car. The war had just begun. The elevator ride up to my apartment was quiet, save for the hum of the ventilation system. I leaned my head against the cool metal wall, letting the anger settle into a cold, calculated focus. Once inside my apartment, I tossed my designer bag onto the entryway console, pulled out my phone, and dialed a number I knew by heart. The line rang twice before a deep, resonant voice answered. Sophia? It's late. Is everything all right? Uncle Richard, I said, my voice steady but sharp. I'm sorry to call you at this hour, but I have something you'll want to see immediately. Someone just tried to extort $15,000 from me using a certified assessment from Blue Sky. A heavy silence fell over the line. I could hear the rustle of papers as Richard Miller, the founder and executive director of the Blue Sky Children's Development Assessment Center, sat up at his desk. An assessment? For my center? Richard's tone instantly shifted from warm uncle to formidable CEO. What are the details? The child's name is Leo Hayes. The document claims he suffered brain nerve damage, and intellectual developmental delay due to, get this, prolonged vehicle jolting. It has your blue official seal on the bottom right. Richard let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. Vehicle jolting? Sophia, our center, is a state-certified medical and psychological evaluation facility. We assess neurodivergence, cognitive delays, and learning disabilities. We don't diagnose fictitious trauma from speed bumps. Send me a photo of that document right now. I hung up, snapped a clear, high-resolution photo of the folded paper, and sent it to him via text. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang again. It's a forgery, Richard said, his voice dripping with icy professional fury. A pathetic one at that. The registration serial number at the top belongs to a developmental evaluation we did for a 6-year-old girl with ADHD 3 months ago. The seal is a counterfeit, the font of the outer ring is slightly off, and the ink density is wrong. Sophia, who gave this to you? My neighbor, Brenda Hayes, I replied. She blocked my car in the garage tonight with her husband and mother-in-law, accusing me of ruining her son's brain because I drove him to school this year. She threatened to post it in the building's group chat and the school's parent forums if I don't pay up. She's committing a felony, Richard said coldly. Forging the seal of a state-certified institution to extort money is a serious crime. Our legal department has been working with the district attorney's office to track down the agency printing these fakes. Your neighbor just handed us the golden thread. What do you want me to do? I asked. Let her post it, Richard advised, a grim satisfaction in his voice. Let her broadcast it to the world. The moment she publishes that forged document online and links it to an extortion demand, she seals her own fate. I'm calling our chief legal counsel, Marcus Vance, right now. He'll coordinate with the local police precinct. Don't engage with her in the chat. Just collect the evidence. Understood, I said. I'll keep my eyes open. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of iced water and sat on the sofa. Just as I expected, my phone began to vibrate incessantly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I unlocked the screen. The community WeChat/Snapchat group chat, which housed over 300 residents from our luxury high-rise, was blowing up. Brenda Hayes. Everyone, please look at this. I want everyone to see the true face of the Good Samaritan in Building 3, Sophia Miller. Attached 3 photos. Brenda Hayes. For a whole year, she volunteered to drive my son Leo to school, pretending to be a kind neighbor. But in reality, she used my son as a toy. She drove like a maniac, speeding over speed bumps and jolting my poor baby's head. Every single day. Brenda Hayes. These are the official medical results from the state's most authoritative institution, Blue Sky. My son, who was destined for an elite prep school, now has irreversible brain damage and scored AD in math because of her. When we confronted her tonight, she tried to run us over in the garage. Look at my ankle, it's completely swollen. She attached a photo of her slightly red ankle, followed by the forged Blue Sky document and a photo of my car's license plate. The group chat instantly erupted. Resident, Apt 1402. Oh my god, is this real? I always see Sophia driving. She drives a high-performance sports sedan, doesn't she? No wonder the child got hurt. Resident, Apt 905. This is horrifying. AD in math. Leo used to be such a bright kid. If this is true, Sophia needs to be held accountable. You can't just ruin a child's future and walk away. Resident, Apt 2201. Wait, can car jolting really cause brain damage? That sounds a bit extreme. Brenda Hayes at Resident, Apt 2201. Are you questioning a professional medical institution? The blue seal is right there. The doctor said Leo's brain is severely inflamed from the constant shaking. Sophia is refusing to pay a single cent of the medical bills and even threatened to kill us tonight. We've already called the police. I watched the screen, my expression impassive. I didn't type a single letter in response. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into a private folder on my cloud drive. It was time to pull up the real reason behind Leo's academic downfall. To the outside world, Brenda Hayes was a devoted, middle-class mother who constantly bragged about her son's genius-level intellect. Her husband, David, worked long hours as a mid-level manager at a logistics firm, and his mother, Martha, contributed her meager pension to help fund Leo's private tutoring. Every month, David and Martha scraped together $5,000 specifically designated for Leo's elite after-school mathematics and science tutoring. But I knew a secret. 3 months ago, Brenda had invited me over for tea while Leo was supposed to be at his tutoring session. During our conversation, her phone had continuously pinged with notifications. At one point, she left the room to tend to a boiling kettle, leaving her iPad unlocked on the coffee table. A massive, colorful notification had popped up on the screen. Congratulations. VIP user, Brenda_loves_site. You have just gifted 5 dream castles to streamer Jax. I had stared at the screen in disbelief. A dream castle on that popular streaming platform cost exactly $1,000 in real money. Out of curiosity, I had noted down the platform and her username. Later, with the help of a close friend who worked as a data analyst at that very streaming agency, I discovered the staggering truth. Brenda hadn't been sending Leo to tutoring at all. For the past 5 months, she had been canceling Leo's sessions, pocketing the $5,000 monthly cash allowance provided by her husband and mother-in-law, and spending every dime of it to maintain her status as the #1 VIP giver in the chat room of a 22-year-old, heavily filtered male streamer named Jax. Jax was known for his sweet-talking, late-night broadcasts where he flirted with older, lonely women to coax them into buying virtual gifts. Brenda, desperate for validation and escape from her mundane marriage, had fallen hook, line, and sinker. To keep up the charade, Brenda had forced Leo to stay in the library or wander the park during his tutoring hours, threatening to take away his video games if he told his father or grandmother. With no actual instruction and immense emotional stress, Leo's grades had naturally plummeted from straight A's to failing marks. I opened the folder where I had kept the compiled evidence, screenshots of Brenda's public VIP profile, her transaction history, which my contact had legally helped verify through public fan ranking ledgers, and time-stamped photos of Leo sitting alone in the park during his supposed tutoring hours. You wanted to play dirty, Brenda, I whispered, closing my laptop with a soft click. Let's see how long your family stands by you when they find out where their hard-earned money really went. The next morning, the air in the lobby of our building was thick with tension. I had barely stepped out of the elevator when I was greeted by the sight of Brenda, David, Martha, and several disgruntled neighbors gathered near the front desk. Brenda was sitting on one of the lobby's plush sofas, her ankle dramatically wrapped in a thick white bandage. Beside her, Mr. Jenkins, the property manager, looked sweating and anxious, holding a tablet. There she is, the attempted murderer. Martha Hayes shrieked the moment she saw me. She pointed a trembling, arthritic finger in my direction. Look at her, walking around like she owns the place after almost running my daughter-in-law over. The lobby security guard shifted uncomfortably. Several neighbors stopped to watch, whispering among themselves. David Hayes stepped forward, his expression grave. Sophia, we saw the community chat. You didn't reply to a single accusation. Your silence is an admission of guilt. We've already filed a police report for the assault in the garage, and we have the medical assessment proving what your reckless driving did to our son. I walked toward them slowly, my heels clicking sharply against the polished marble floor. I didn't look flustered or angry. If anything, I looked bored. David, Brenda, Martha, I said, acknowledging each of them with a slight nod. And neighbors. Good morning. Good morning. Brenda sneered, leaning forward. You think this is a joke? The police are on their way here right now. I told them everything. You're going to jail, Sophia. I welcome the police, I replied calmly. But before they arrive, let's address a few things. First, Mr. Jenkins, did you preserve the surveillance footage from Zone B, Spot 102, as I requested last night? Mr. Jenkins stepped forward, wiping his brow. Yes, Ms. Miller. I have it right here on the tablet. I was just about to show Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, but they insisted on waiting for you. Excellent. Play it, I said. David frowned, but didn't object. The neighbors crowded around the tablet. On the screen, the footage was crystal clear and high definition. It showed my car pulling into the spot at a safe, low speed. Suddenly, Brenda, David, and Martha rushed out from behind a pillar, actively surrounding my car and blocking the exit. The footage showed me lowering my window, the brief interaction, and then Brenda aggressively slapping the papers onto my windshield. When I opened the door to step out, Martha's hand could be seen lunging toward my face. But the highlight of the footage was the end. When I got back into my car and started the engine, David and Martha immediately ran behind a pillar. Brenda, however, attempted to take a step forward to block me again, but her Ridiculously high stiletto heel caught on an expansion joint in the concrete. She tripped over her own feet, tumbling onto the floor before my car even began to accelerate. My car then drove past her safely, leaving ample clearance. The silence in the lobby was deafening. "So," I said, looking directly at Brenda's bandaged ankle, "the attempted murder was actually you tripping over your own heels because you were too busy trying to illegally detain me? And as the video shows, you blocked my vehicle, harassed me, and attempted to assault me inside my own car." Brenda's face flushed a deep, ugly red. That doesn't change the fact that you ruined my son's brain. The assault is minor compared to what you did to Leo. The medical assessment is the real proof." The medical assessment," I murmured. "Let's talk about that." Right on cue, the glass double doors of the lobby slid open. Two uniformed police officers walked in, accompanied by a tall, sharp-featured man in a bespoke charcoal gray suit. Behind them was my uncle, Richard Miller, dressed in his formal executive attire. Brenda's eyes lit up when she saw the police. She struggled to stand, wincing dramatically. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. That's her, Sophia Miller. She's the one who assaulted me and damaged my child." The lead officer, Officer Davis, held up a hand to calm her down. "Ma'am, please sit down. We received a report of an alleged assault, but we also received a concurrent call from the legal representatives of the Blue Sky Children's Development Assessment Center regarding a major fraud and extortion case." Brenda froze. Blue Sky." The man in the charcoal suit stepped forward. "Good morning. My name is Marcus Vance, Chief Legal Counsel for the Blue Sky Assessment Center. And this is our Executive Director, Mr. Richard Miller." Richard stepped beside me, putting a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Sophia is my niece. And more importantly, she is a citizen whose reputation has been severely defamed using a forged document bearing our institution's counterfeit seal." David Hayes looked bewildered. "Forged? What do you mean forged? My wife got this directly from your clinic. We paid for the evaluation." Marcus Vance pulled a tablet from his briefcase and opened a certified document. "Mr. Hayes, the document your wife presented to Ms. Miller last night and subsequently posted publicly on a community forum with over 300 active members is an outright fabrication. The serial number printed on it belongs to a completely different patient. Furthermore, our facility does not and has never issued diagnoses for vehicle jolting brain damage. It is medically absurd and legally fraudulent." "No, that's impossible," Brenda stammered, her voice suddenly trembling. "I went to the clinic. I spoke to a doctor." "Which doctor?" Richard asked, his voice cold and commanding. "Name them, because I know every single licensed practitioner in my facility and none of them would sign their name to this garbage. If you obtained this from an unauthorized third party, you are still legally liable for using a counterfeit state seal to demand $15,000 for my niece. That is criminal extortion, Mrs. Hayes." Officer Davis looked at Brenda, his expression stern. "Mrs. Hayes, did you present this document to Ms. Miller and demand $15,000? I was just trying to get compensation for my son." Brenda began to panic, her face turning pale under her heavy makeup. His grades dropped. He got AD. I thought the document was real." "We have the chat records you posted publicly," Officer Davis noted, pulling out his notebook. "You stated explicitly that this was an official assessment. You used it to publicly defame Ms. Miller, accusing her of a crime. That, combined with the security footage we just witnessed of you blocking her vehicle, constitutes harassment, coercion, and felony forgery." "David, help me," Brenda cried, grabbing her husband's arm. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." David looked at his wife, a seed of doubt finally sprouting in his mind. "Brenda, where did you get that document? You told me you took Leo to the Blue Sky Clinic last week while I was at work. You said the appointment cost $500. I did," she lied, her eyes darting around the lobby. "She's lying, David," I said softly, stepping forward. "She didn't take Leo to any clinic. In fact, she hasn't taken Leo to his math tutoring in months." "What are you talking about?" Martha Hayes barked, stepping in front of her daughter-in-law. "We pay $5,000 a month for Leo's tutoring. I give half my pension for that boy's future. How dare you lie about my grandson?" "I'm not the one lying to you, Martha," I said, pulling a tablet from my bag. "You might want to take a look at this." I opened the folder containing the records of Brenda's streaming activities. For the past 5 months, Brenda has been canceling Leo's tutoring sessions. I explained, showing the screen to David and Martha. Instead of studying, Leo was forced to sit in the park or the library alone so Brenda wouldn't get caught. And where did that $5,000 a month go? It went to a 22-year-old male streamer who goes by the name of Sunnyboy Jax. David's eyes widened as he stared at the screen. I scrolled through the pages, displaying the verified transaction records of the account. Brenda_loves_fun. Here is her VIP fan ranking. I continued, my voice calm but lethal. She is the top donor on his channel. Last month alone, she gifted him 10 dream castles and 30 love rockets, totaling over $6,000. The platform verified the account is linked to Brenda's personal phone number and her private credit card. No, this is a setup. She's hacking my phone. Brenda screamed, lunging off the sofa toward me. But Officer Davis quickly stepped in, restraining her. Ma'am, calm down. David grabbed the tablet from my hands, his fingers shaking. He stared at the screen, his face turning from pale white to a dark, furious crimson. The messages on the screen were indisputable. Brenda_loves_fight. Jax, darling, did you like the dream castle I sent you? Tonight? Tell me I'm your favorite big sister. Streamer_Jax. Of course, Brenda. You're my queen. I can't wait to see you in the private VIP chat later tonight. Kiss, kiss. Brenda. David's voice was barely a whisper, thick with a mixture of shock and pure rage. You spent Leo's education money on this? My overtime pay, my mother's pension. David, listen to me. It's not what it looks like. Brenda wept, clutching his shirt. Jax was just a game. I did it for stress relief. I love you sick, disgusting woman. Martha Hayes suddenly roared. With a strength no one knew the old woman possessed, Martha lunged forward and slapped Brenda across the face. The crack of her hand against Brenda's cheek echoed through the marble lobby. My pension. My hard-earned money for my grandson's future. You threw it away on some gigolo online? Martha screamed, her face contorted in absolute fury. You ruined my grandson. You're a thief. A whore. Martha, stop. David yelled, but he didn't comfort his wife. Instead, he looked at Brenda with an expression of complete disgust. He turned to the police officers. Officers, I want to report a theft. My wife stole over $25,000 of family funds under false pretenses. And as for her forged documents, I had nothing to do with it. She handles the household accounts. David, you can't do this to me, Brenda cried, collapsing onto the floor, her carefully styled hair now a tangled mess, her tears smudging her dark makeup into grotesque streaks. We're a family. Not anymore, David said, his voice cold and dead. I'm filing for divorce. And I'm going to make sure you get absolutely nothing. Officer Davis and his partner stepped forward, pulling Brenda up from the floor and placing her in handcuffs. Brenda Hayes, you are under arrest for felony forgery, attempted extortion, and filing a false police report, Officer Davis stated clearly, reading her rights. As they led her toward the exit, the neighbors in the lobby watched in stunned silence as Brenda was escorted out, sobbing hysterically, her bandaged ankle dragging uselessly on the floor. David and Martha followed closely behind, shouting arguments at each other as they left to deal with the police precinct and the impending legal disaster. Marcus Vance turned to me with a polite, professional smile. Ms. Miller, our legal team will handle the rest of the proceedings. We will ensure that Mrs. Hayes faces the maximum penalty for forging our institution's credentials. We will also file a civil lawsuit for defamation on behalf of Blue Sky and yourself. Thank you, Marcus. And thank you, Uncle Richard, I said, offering them a grateful smile. Anytime, Sophia, Richard said, patting my shoulder. No one messes with A. Miller. Let's get some coffee. I think you've had a busy morning. I'd love that, I replied. As we walked out of the lobby, my phone buzzed in my hand. I opened the community group chat. The tide had turned completely. Resident, Apt 1402. Oh my God, did you guys see what just happened in the lobby? Brenda was arrested. The document was fake. Resident, Apt 905. I can't believe she spent her kids' tutoring money on a male streamer. That is absolutely vile. Poor Leo. Resident, Apt 2201. Sophia is the real victim here. She drove that kid to School out of the goodness of her heart for a year, and they tried to extort her. We owe Sophia an apology. Resident, Apt 1804. I apologize, Sophia. We shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. You're a good person. I didn't reply to any of them. I simply closed the app, locked my phone, and slipped it into my bag. The morning sun was bright, warming the pavement as we walked toward the cafe. Down the street, the air was clean, the musty smell of the underground garage completely washed away. Justice had been served, quietly and absolute.